All right, let's just check and see if we are live. Are we live? Is this functioning? Ooh, we are live. Lovely. Most excellent. All right, well, let's get to doing some drawing and such. Alrighty. So this is a little demon guy I've been painting up, I think. So what I'd like to do with this, ultimately, is make some magic card proxy art, but also just cool, fun pieces that are in a more painterly style. I've done some pieces like this in the past, and lately it's been a lot of line art and more kind of pop cutesy stuff. Not cutesy, but, you know, I want to get into the little bit of a more darker aesthetic, and I think this would be a fun way to do it. So I'm going to do a series of hot, perhaps expensive proxy card art in black. So it'll be black magic cards. This one is probably going to be the art we'll use for Demonic Tutor. And then a couple weeks ago, I pulled a Sheoldred the Apocalypse, which I will show off now. I need to get a better case for it, but it is a beautiful card. It goes for about, this is the non-foil version, so it's like a $70 card, give or take, 75 bucks. Don't necessarily want to run it, the original. I did not realize what I had, and then I was playing Commander with a buddy of mine. I put that into play, and he was like, dude, you should you should probably proxy that or something. So it gave me the idea to do some proxy cards, and that's sort of what we're working on. Now, I did this guy yesterday, and maybe I'll show off the kind of under sketch here. So Demonic Tutor, sort of sitting on this big throne, this weird throne, with his book in hand, kind of pondering perhaps the answer to a question asked by his little acolytes down here. So that's the idea, but once I got started painting this, I realized the pose wasn't quite as dynamic as I'd like. I do like the general idea of the pose, but I think I want to give him a little more hunch, make him kind of leaning over and considering the question more closely to his supplicants here, and then also have his arm kind of jutting out more, be longer, exaggerate the anatomy a little further, and we'll see how that goes. So I think today we're going to go back to sort of a line art sketch of this, and then hopefully get into a little bit of digital painting here at the end. So let's go ahead and get started, why don't we? And we got Diablo, of course, playing in the background. Tristram theme, just to get in the mood. I feel like this always gets me in the mood to paint and draw demons. So let's get right into it then, shall we? Shall we, ladies and gents? So this right here, you can't even see that. This is a pencil or a nib or whatever you call these that I got out of some pack. It's called Monster in a Pocket. So it's just kind of like a chunky, kind of traditional pencil-looking brush. Nothing too fancy, but I was having fun sketching with it yesterday, so we're going to continue with that. And we will try and this time I'm kind of going with a more horizontal landscape portrait or landscape canvas, so that we can give this guy a little more horizontal area to move around in, and hopefully the back of the canvas is not too dark that it can't be seen on screen. But we really want this guy to kind of be leaning forward. Maybe, yeah, his neck needs to be longer as he's sort of pondering this question. I like the hunch. We want to give him kind of like almost like it's still powerful, but almost decrepit in some ways. You know, he's not like the other demons. He's more of a scholar, more of a thinker, and so physical prowess is not his number one priority or asset, shall we say. But in the original sketch, I was kind of giving them like sort of Greek philosopher robes, togas, that kind of thing. I don't mind that. I think that's fun. But maybe do a little bit more with that and maybe give them some accoutrements that could enhance just the visual interest and add some opportunities for some fun designs. So I kind of liked how I had his hand posed, where the pinky was sort of like sticking out like so, and then the thumb is right here. Thing is, I also want to make sure there's ample opportunity to give the hands some dynamism and be able to kind of noodle around on those and give them some big gross veins or something. And I think to accomplish that, we're going to have to kind of change the nature of his arm a little bit so that it's kind of foreshortened coming out, so the elbow is kind of jutting out at the viewer here, and then kind of give it to him like that. And I think we're going to have to adjust, the position of this guy on the screen, probably make him a little bit smaller, and then make his body a little bit bigger. Sometimes it can be difficult to, once you've got a sketch or a, kind of initial thumbnail or something that you really liked, which I do like, the one that I just showed off, I do like where this is headed. But sometimes it can be difficult to step away from that and, enjoy the process of quote unquote fixing it or iterating on it or doing something different with it. Like, because you're like, oh, I notice all the flaws that are developing with this one. Maybe it's not worth it to go back and change it. And oftentimes it is worth it. It's advice that I don't take often enough myself, because I despise doing more work than I have to. The thing is, if it's fun, then it doesn't matter. He's facing the... He's kind of facing more at a 3/4 view than I have him in the other pose, which I don't necessarily hate, but I don't know if it captures the same kind of energy as the other one. Because the other one sort of has, it's interesting because somewhat this is inspired by, you might say, sort of like classical painting, or like, of like a classical painting of classical times in terms of like the kind of Greek and Roman inspiration here. And there sometimes is this sort of simplified perspective with some of those older paintings, just because, using dynamic perspective was not necessarily a technique that had been popularized or developed yet. So you have these very simple kind of compositions where it's like one dude or a few dudes or something kind of like in this line, sort of two-dimensionally laid out, walking up to an angel or the devil or some other being, a saint or something like that. And that is a little bit of the energy that's being evoked here. So I don't know how into the, what would you call it? I don't know how, ooh, that's kind of weird. I don't hate it, but it's a little bit much. I don't know what kind of background I want to do for this yet, how involved that's going to be. But I do like the idea of kind of giving him this long and sort of bony elbow here. And I do think we'll have to make this guy smaller for this canvas. And again, the size that I'm working at, I may need to adjust a little bit. So this would be roughly an 11 by 14 print. If I do this as a print, and then obviously, for card art, that's more than enough. But I'm just trying to consider, it's like, would I want to blow this up any bigger? And if so, at what stage I want to do that? Probably not for the sketching stage. It's not really necessary. But, we'll see how that goes. Keep this guy rocking and rolling. And one thing, there's a few reasons that I'm sort of going for a very painterly style here. One was at the suggestion of a good friend of mine, because I've done stuff like this in the past, and it's been a while since I've kind of gone for this. But the other reason is that, in digital, you sort of have maximum flexibility with how you want to approach changing a piece or editing it after the fact. It can be fun to kind of approach things from a more traditional perspective using digital. And I like the painting tools that are offered in Clip Studio. But I was finding that doing sort of like a comic book ink style, still, once the line art was done, it left me feeling more rigid. It left me feeling like I couldn't just go and paint over things and adjust them and fix them. I might even want to, let me see here. I don't know if, is it possible for me to do this? I'm trying to maybe I can do it like this. No. Okay. I wanted to kind of have these side by side. I could probably figure that out. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So I do like this more, but in terms of the arm. But I think I do want more, like I said, of that kind of like he is hunched over. And I just can't resist tossing like a pot belly, like a Grinch style pot belly on a good old demon. So that's what we're gonna do here. Go with the little demon pot belly. And I think I still, although it's like making him sort of this skinny fellow. Maybe that's a little easier, although, I mean, not that I want it to be easy, but maybe that's more in line with the nature of this character. But maybe not. I think having a little pot belly would be appropriate. But let's get his robes kind of going here. And then we wanted to have his little book sort of laid out here. I also think his hand needs to be much larger, longer fingers, more sinister. I don't know if y'all know this, but demons, classic sinister figures in literature and art. But to be honest, I kind of like the idea of just like a demon being he's just a huge nerd. He's not really super concerned with doing demon shit, but all these people want to come study with him. learn his many secrets, and he's sort of just like, yeah, sure, come hang out, come enjoy the good times with me, and we'll read books, and we'll study the most horrible and profane of evil black magic, and it'll be freaking sweet. And there's nothing that God or anyone else can do to stop us. One thing I did like about this piece, though, is there is this sort of like, he's sort of showing his mouth a little bit, like it's kind of poking out under here, and I did like that a lot. So we're gonna change this hand while we're still in the early stages here. Maybe we'll draw out his whole face here, and then we'll just draw over it again. At least get the structure of his little head in here. Give him a nice bony chin or jawline. Yes, yes, we love it. I think maybe the position, you know, I probably should do some reference for this. The one thing that I'm running, it's like there's things I want his hand to be able to do, right? I want him to be able to, I want to have it so that the fingers are able to have a little bit of sort of dynamism to them and sort of be sticking up, but then, he's sort of like, So a common way to kind of, especially to get around the issues of positioning the arm and everything when you're trying to do something with the hands, is just to draw the hand wherever you want the hand ultimately to be, and then figure out the arm after the fact. So we're gonna do that, and I think I actually need his head to be bigger, and I think that is fine and makes sense, and that is the case on. That is the case on this piece. If you see his head in comparison to his body, and I think we want his hand to be pretty big, so we need his head to be bigger so we can, again, show off more of those interest points on the face, especially around the mouth. So let's go ahead and do that. Get this guy's head real big. He's a brainiac, so his head should be big. Maybe we'll move it. We'll jut it out a little bit here. Make it real nice. And that might also lend to the impression that he's sort of like leaning forward. Bump up the size of this brush a little bit. We don't want to be scratching away too much. We want the lines to be fairly thick here. We want to get the broad kind of impressions going of what's happening here. Got like a weird little, kind of giving him a little like Popeye arm kind of thing going on. The nice thing about demons and fantasy creatures is you can really mess with the anatomy and make it fun. Give them weird big bulges and stuff. They, again, have this sort of hunchback thing going on. The thing is like opening up some of this here in the middle for a little bit of negative space in this region. I think would add a little bit more visual interest, and then we also want his book to be somewhat more of a focal point. And we're just adding in. That's too big. We just want little. Just to indicate where we're going to have his pupils there. By the way, at the moment, I have no idea if anybody's watching this. I'm guessing nobody is watching this. Yeah, there's one watching, and that's me, now that I'm looking at it. So... we're going to go ahead and close that, or go back. Okay. We can't see the chat on our other thingy here, so hopefully that'll be functional. If anybody happens to stop in, it's supposed to be a lovely little snowy day here in my home state. And as of yet, the promised massive snows have not yet materialized, so we will see as the day treks on what will happen with that story, won't we? Yeah, we want there to be like planned irregularities here. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, one thing that I've been trying to work on is making these little, like, kind of mutated creatures and grooves. Like, when I do that, to rather than simply let them lie as is to sort of design them and think about how they exist in proportion to each other. So if you've got several lumps on a dude, one of the lumps is sort of the big lump, the master lump, and then the other lumps sort of exist in this like hierarchy of size and shape and interest and detail. And it's important to do that just so it doesn't look just so that the viewer's eye is drawn to something of interest or has these different there are different layers kind of detail that just make the feeling of it more dynamic. Which is part of the reason why I wanted to go back and kind of redo this pose, because I didn't feel... it feels like everything's sort of a similar kind of size category over here, right? And then over here, I wanted to stretch that a little. I wanted to make that a little bit more varied. And variation is the spice of life. However that saying goes, variety, right? Variety, yeah, probably more accurate to say is a spice of life. Too much of anything, and you can over-season your life. That's not even... I don't think that even qualifies as being considered a joke, but there it is. Okay, I'm enjoying noodling away on this guy. I think we need to, once again, ensmallin him. Not a word. We'll shrink him a little bit. Shrink his size down. Just a tad. We'll stick him up here. So we want to be able to give him, so I probably should, if I'm going to be a responsible artist, reference some drapery here to really get the folds of this toga thing that he's wearing in proper order. But I think I'll maybe do is sort of have it indicating or sort of wrapping around the bulge of his stomach, and then he's wearing maybe some kind of like rope girdle or maybe like a chain belt or something like that. Maybe they're like big ring-like chains, just to break things up a little bit. And he's got like I don't know, a something over here. He has something over here. Maybe it's like a big jug or something. The water of knowledge, but it is stinky. Stinky demon water of demon knowledge that he keeps back here, and everybody wants a sip. Everybody wants a sip of his stanky water that he's got hiding out back there, so they all come to hang out with him, hoping that he will bestow upon them his many secrets. It's like when you've got your mom makes the best lunch in the lunchroom, and all the kids who have to get the school lunch or whatever, or like their mom packs them Lunchables or something. They're like, I would like a taste of your fancy gourmet lunch that your mom gives you. You know, it's crazy. Like, I see memes a lot, and you know, I grew up in somewhat more diverse household than others. You know, my mom's Vietnamese. But you know, some kids, especially like kids who are, you know, basically second generation immigrants from you know, places like India or China or Korea. You know, their parents pack them like what are like as adults, you look at it and you think like that lunch is objectively like amazing. Like it's just like all kinds of delicious food inspired by their home culture. And then like kids will see that and relentlessly like make fun of them, and like be like, that's weird. And I really hope today, you know, I keep hearing that the younger generation is more woke than us olds, and I really hope to believe that. I'm sure that's not true everywhere, but I really hope that kids understand that those students who bring you know, delicious ethnic dishes to the lunchroom are getting the best deal by far of any of their peers. But anyway, that was not the case when I was a kid, unfortunately. People got made fun of for that kind of stuff. I never did, because I didn't really get, you know, my mom was not sending me with anything too crazy, and the stuff she sent me with was pretty good, usually. Pretty tasty sandwiches and stuff. I was very lucky. I was very, very fortunate to have that when I was a kid. But like sometimes, for example, she would send me like with a thermos, and it was just like a bowl of like, or it was like a thermos full of broth for like ramen noodles, and then the ramen noodles she sent like in a separate bag, because especially the bag ramen or like the, you know, the dried noodle ramen, if you put it, if it's like sitting in the hot water for hours, it just turns into mush because the noodles are so cheap. So she would, with the infinite foresight of a mother and a chef, she would avoid me having to deal with that by bagging the noodles separately. Much to appreciate. And yet, I decided to be an artist. Throw away all the many privileges I was blessed with by seeking a life of destitution in the arts. And that's why we draw these demons. We hope to manifest them so we can sell our meager souls and achieve fame and glory and fortune, or or at least notoriety, you know. I don't know. Personally, I'd rather just have like stability over notoriety. I think you will hear that from many artists. That because it's a thing where it's like the whole point of doing it is that you love it. And when I say the whole point, I mean obviously people want to make money off of this, but if your starting point is not that you love it, but rather that you are seeking to make money off it, you might as well just stop, because like there are much easier ways to make money. If you don't love it, then you might as well just do something else. Something else that you will love as little or more, right? Could be anything. So if you're just getting into the arts, or you're getting into music, or you're getting into whatever, and you would like, oh, I want to be famous and rich, I just want to do this for the money, just stop. Just stop and think about your life choices, because they will not. That mentality will not serve you well in this industry. Unless you, I don't know, think that's funny or cool, or you accidentally become there are people who are skilled enough technicians in the arts that probably have less passion than other less successful people than them, but that happens to be what they're good at, so they keep doing it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but just seems kind of silly. It's very interesting because with art, you can certainly find like communities where you're going to be accepted and welcomed, and whether those communities are art communities or otherwise, like you can find places where you will be respected. But generally speaking, there's no special respect or reverence that people have for artists. It's very interesting. Because you would sort of assume maybe that there is that for some types of artists, but I don't know. I don't know that there is. I think people do respect the skill of it, or there is a certain level of awe that people have. I think even for like something like this, where it's just this is not something that all people are able to do. I think for probably most of the people who'd be watching this, it seems this sketching stage is fairly rudimentary stuff. It's I'm not saying it's anything amazing, but it is more than most people really even really understand how to even achieve. Without giving it some thought, because it is difficult to get to even something like this. It's not easy, and I think when people recognize that difficulty, they do tend to at least proffer a little bit of respect for that, or awe or interest. And maybe that's just because they haven't thought about how actually it is pretty easy to just like put lines on a page and make stuff. I don't know. Easy in the sort of like grand scheme of things, easy. Like, I would imagine that it would be difficult for any human being to learn how to become, for example, a heart surgeon or brain surgeon. Probably more so the brain surgeon. That would be difficult for any human being to achieve. Whereas I don't think that being able to sketch like this would be difficult for anyone to achieve. I think anybody just about could like get to this point. Like any human basically of, relatively sound mind, regardless of their starting ability. Like if they were forced at gunpoint to achieve something like this, they would be able to do so without too much trouble. And I'm just sort of shifting this around. Sometimes I fall into this trap, though, where you start like moving things and changing the size, and then you realize, well, it doesn't look quite right. Let me move this other part and change the size, and you end up with something that's like the exact same proportions that you started out with because you've been like noodling with it too much. It's a digital artist problem for sure. And I think I need to do something about his lower body. I think we need to just erase it and start from scratch here. And because I want it to be pretty like skinny. And I want him to have like regular, like I thought about doing like sort of a goat leg thing, but I want him to be kind of seated on this throne, and I just like the idea of giving him like skinny little like old man legs, you know. But I want to show, I like he needs to have the robes, but I want to show off some of the leg. I'm struggling with how best to do that. I think I need a little more verticality on this. And you know what? Screw it. We're just going to change the canvas size to accommodate this at this point. Because I think I might end up going back to a horizontal canvas. Or, a vertical canvas. Just based on how I want the... So I want to emphasize... I think I still want to emphasize his height as well. Sort of he is like... sort of like a teacher, kind of like a wannabe Socrates type, where he's like got all these students that come and bow and scrape before him, and he likes the feeling of power over them that he possesses, by probably intentionally withholding certain knowledge from them. Maybe his leg comes out a little and he is sort of, his knee is maybe coming out a bit. And his other leg is sort of more like this. He's on this like great stone pillar kind of slab thing. Maybe. God, Diablo music is the best for drawing demons. I hope you guys can hear it. I hope you guys can hear me. I don't know. I don't know who's going to be in here. I don't know who's ever going to watch this. Maybe nobody. I do want to start streaming more regularly now that we're firmly into the new year. Maybe he will be more like squatting on this thing. The legs are an issue. I don't quite know what to do about that at this moment. I was doing some traditional sketching. I ended up doing like a lot of dudes, like demonic little goblin dudes, sort of like squatting on things. And I want him to have a somewhat more dignified pose. This is becoming very messy in here. I think Yeah, we need to just obliterate all this. So this guy, yeah, like I don't love what's going on in the original's like kind of base over there. Like I could have him standing. But I don't like the idea of him standing. I think he's more of a sitter. And maybe it's just that we need to make his leg, just make the entire pose a little more horizontal. Have his leg be sort of jutting out here. Get some feet action up in here. And I think I'd like to look into some iconography that's kind of associated with knowledge and maybe work that sort of design element into his throne. So we'll kind of leave this as sort of a placeholder. And then figure out what happens after that. Take a sip of coffee. His legs are too big. We've gotten lost in the sauce in the legs. They need to be a little skinnier, or again, because we want the front of his body to sort of be, again, the focal point and the actually, yeah, maybe we jut this out a little more. Yeah, I should have made this demon look like one of my teachers. I don't have too many teachers from my childhood that I really despised, and I was always kind of a teacher's pet. So most of the time they were cool with me. Actually, yeah, maybe it would have been cool. You know, I was like, because to be honest, I mean, I think it would be a pretty rad homage to a teacher that you really love to turn them into like a cool demonic corruptor. All the best teachers have been throughout history were accused of corrupting the youth, so I mean that would be pretty appropriate probably. Now his leg looks funny. Now it looks too small. Gosh, this is hard. This leg thing is hard. I know I call this stream Painting Demons, but I'm not sure we're going to get to the actual painting part. I need to, well, and one thing, it's like there are some elements, like especially the composition and sort of like the bigger shapes of the anatomy and stuff, that is nice to have planned out. Some things, like painting or, using kind of broad strokes and then refining later, I find that works pretty well for hands, because the hands, I think, are a little bit easier once you sort of look past the details and really just like flat in the planes with with like chunks of color or value, and then you don't have to worry about, you can worry about all the little details later. Whereas if you're working with lines, that's kind of the, like you can draw, like I could draw these as like boxes or something, but really I just trying to get the positioning down and the proportion and the size and everything. And the other thing to consider is that a lot of this is going to get blotted out in the final version. So we don't want to do too much work on it now, do we? Now it would be kind of interesting, or maybe to just like make it like robes and what do you call it? Robes and stuff all the way down. And then have that be a sort of more organic, flowing, somewhat chunky set of shapes, and then have like his chair be much more kind of like simplified and not regal, but you know, lose some of the organic elements of the chair. That makes sense, right? Give that a shot. We can kind of work that out later too. It's not my primary concern right now. Maybe that his foot goes all the way down to like a pedestal here. Well, I don't love the idea of having him sitting at a throne, or even a throne-like chair. There's this sort of like very simple, thin back to it, with like some kind of sigil thing floating above the chair. We don't want it to steal visual interest from the tutor himself, the teacher. Okay, we shall continue. I do like the idea of him sort of like leaning forward in interest. Maybe his, yeah, the pose of his feet, something like this. And we will... I'm almost thinking about stretching him a little bit and just going with that change of proportion. Yeah, I kind of like that. He's a little bit stretched out, and we will... I do want his feet to be big, big and skinny, to sort of emphasize, like, I don't want him to have chunky feet, but sometimes when, yeah, it's like characters with like, who are kind of decrepit and skinny and old, like the giving them big feet, or making sure that the feet look big really emphasizes how skinny the rest of them are. But with that in mind, I think I would make his foot a little bit longer, or his leg a little bit longer. Maybe he has some kind of jewelry or a bracelet or a shackle even. Maybe he is cursed to forever render knowledge to mortals. He's stuck he's stuck at this place, being forced to offer his tutelage, and being forced to give knowledge truthfully, but perhaps he doesn't tell the whole story, and it leads to those who come to him for knowledge coming away with somewhat faulty information that may lead to their demise. These are just the little things that, even if you don't have a plan in mind per se, you sort of need to consider as an artist. It's very important stuff. The little stories about your characters, even the ones that you don't particularly have a plan for. Bump that forward a little bit. Boom. And yeah, I'll give him more. Again, I think I want to bump up his head size a little bit more. Necessarily the size of his hand, though. And let me go back. Yeah, I'm going to keep the... Again, I'm trying to learn to be less precious with my lines. All right, we'll see what that does. Again, I'm running into that issue of like once you do this, you start to return things to like an average, whereas before the emphasis on and the hierarchy of proportion was a bit more clear. That's okay. Blot these out for now. They're kind of distracting me. The eyes are distracting me. He's not yet his own character. He doesn't need those yet. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's different enough. Here's the thing. I wanted maybe the next stage is to like just do another sketch like this, but just go in a totally different direction with it. Because it's not getting far enough from this original, right? Maybe an answer is to really blow up this book, and rather than have the book open, it's like a great slab that's like sticking out. It's like locked. It's indicating that he's teaching from this book, but the bulk of its secrets are for him. And so he's holding it. He's got it kind of in his grip like so. That could be kind of an interesting angle. I kind of like that. Yeah, I don't hate the direction of this thus far. Do I like the original more, though? In some ways, yes, but that's probably because it's just progressed past this one. And if I were to give it the same time and attention to get the color and the value started as this one has, maybe I would come to appreciate it just as much. I don't know. I don't know. It is a mystery. It is a great mystery. We're going to go ahead and put a little bit of kind of chunks of shadow in. Just sort of establishing some rough and ready kind of value here. Obviously, like in the interior, there'd be a lot of darkness. Things are kind of folded over his interior of his body here. We want the light sort of like, you know, it would be kind of an interesting to make like this orb thing the light source. But I think I want the light like shining on him. Like he's put himself in the spotlight, and that's also just, you know, easier and more common way to light something rather than from behind the figure. It'll make it easier for me to render ultimately, but you know, it's a fun idea, I suppose. Just some rough and ready kind of like lighting there. So I do like where it's going, but let's go ahead and actually, this canvas, make that a little bit smaller. We will establish some of the, maybe there's like great piles of books and scrolls, just stuff that's sort of been like cast away or left behind. I kind of like that idea of there being just like these tomes of knowledge that have piled up over the years. All of it just the mad philosophizing of various supplicants of his, open to use by his students because it's all nonsense, but it is nonsense that suits his purposes, perhaps. Maybe he's in like some kind of great library or something. I just want to have something in the background here. Maybe he's behind like or in front of a window of some kind. No, if he's in front of a, well, if he's behind a window, then we do kind of have a lighting scheme set up for that. Maybe it's a two light source setup kind of thing. But I also like I kind of want him to be on some kind of like pedestal, like he is meant to be listened to. And pedestal sort of has, it's not like a perfectly square pedestal, so you have like a sort of like on one of those Shakespearean style stages where it's more of a octagon type shape rather than like a square jutting, like a rectangular shape kind of jutting out as a king would be sitting on. This would be one where, you know, you want people to come and listen, and so there would be like little figures here, like taking notes or something, perhaps, kind of gathered about him. Supplicants seeking the knowledge of the demonic tutor so they can get the cards they need out of their deck. You know how it is. Yeah, like a guy sort of in shadow over here. Like a figure over here. Figure right here, mostly in shadow, but he's got like a big old bushy beard and robes. This guy maybe has a book and he's writing in it. Something of that nature. They're asking him questions. He is considering them. And he is going to send them away with some type of answer based on his ill-begotten wisdom and knowledge that he has accumulated over many years of duping simpleton mortals out of their precious souls. He's like, you too can dupe other mortals out of their souls with this 12-step program. All you need to do is buy my $3 million package of books and other installments, and if you can't afford that, you can just promise me your soul, and if you're not able to make your money back, well, you just didn't follow the instructions in my business pamphlets. Now, did you, mortal? Just a pyramid scheme demon. Classic character, pyramid scheme demon, everybody. You can find them all over the United States. Most of the time they're, middle-aged moms and, those life coach guru type people. Always telling you how best to run things. Okay. Well, I like that this has a sense of a more full illustration, but I think in the original I sort of like thought of having this like more open air, like there's just these like kind of craggy, rocky outcroppings, like they're in hell basically. And they got nothing better to do, so they come to this guy for his knowledge, and the sky is sort of this constant kind of foreboding dusk. It is never pure night, for that would offer the hope of day. It always feels like it is just before dark in the hells. They're all gathered about him on his little pedestal, his piles of... It's not a proper library, it's just piles of books. Oh, maybe it's like the entirety of... Ooh, and then you have these... Okay, so maybe it's like the whole landscape. It's like outside, but it's like this giant library, and everything is just these piles and piles and piles of books and scrolls. Just, and at first it just looks like the landscape, the general landscape, but upon a closer inspection you find that it is just these giant piles of tomes of knowledge, the accumulated musings and discoveries of thousands of different worlds, the scholars of across the multiverse that have for generations heaped their knowledge. It all turns out to be mostly useless. Most of the things that anybody has ever written have been completely stupid and asinine. It's like you think about the percentage of things that are actually worth reading, and it's funny because there's enough stuff worth reading that it could occupy your entire life, but just think about all the trash junk that's out there, and this guy's living in it, and he's loving it. He's like, I'm gonna sell. Like, I've read every single one of these books. That must make me the smartest in the room. These simpletons, they have no idea how dumb most of this stuff is, but I'm going to make sure that I sell them on it. And then we'll have like maybe a layer in the background of something like they're like lighter sort of mountains of books that are sort of rising above the books and paper and stuff that's covering everything here. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, like that. Yeah, I like that. That's kind of cool. The sun sort of like setting over here maybe. And there's like roiling sort of clouds in the back. So that sort of like dark in certain spots. These books are kind of dark. These books over here. This section. I want this guy to be kind of like cast in the light in such a way that he's the focal point, and I'm being very haphazard with this, kind of purposefully, but and he needs to be bigger. He needs to take up more of this frame, but I don't know. I also don't know that this frame is the right size for this composition. And his throne. I think will be a little more jagged. Okay, this is something. This is a start. This is a thing. We can work with this. We can work with this. All right, well, we've been going for about an hour. Just checking the stream here. All right. And I am feeling like I guess I could just launch into this and we can do some painting. So I'm going to actually duplicate this layer, and then what we're going to do is paint right onto this one. Not even paint yet, but just get some white in here and just sort of do I want to use monster? Just pencil sketch over this. I wonder if this would work for this. Let me see. I think I want this to still be kind of chalky. I think I like the chalky look. I used to have one in here. I wonder if this one would do. Let's get up close. Kind of works. Get the spots of light in here that we want to show off. I'll get the monster in my pocket back out. Let's see. Maybe I'll get the yeah, that's a funny phrase. Monster. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you weren't here earlier, that's the name of the brush I was using to sketch this. But it might be nice to get some more kind of consistency in here. We're being a little haphazard with this. It's okay. I don't have a particular goal in mind here. Just kind of sketching around and trying to demarcate some areas of interest here. Yeah. A little bit of light on this book here. Yeah, I like the idea of maybe some, these chains down here, which we will probably end up adding later in the process. Need to remember that they're there. Light, of course, hitting this whole jagged throne thing. He's got some kind of bracelet on, or armlet. I definitely like that there is more, not a ton more, and maybe not enough, but some more negative space in here. Maybe he's even wearing like some kind of chain or necklace. And again, just giving him a little more. Yeah. All right. I like where this is at for the time being. But just add like a little bit in for these dudes. The dudes are kind of lit from that side. Maybe his arm is a little lit up here in the front. Very basic lighting on these books. Just to indicate that there's, these stacks of things over here, not just they're not just piles of rocks. There's sort of these stacks of square things, rectangular things. Okay. This is super messy, but it leaves me feeling interested. I'm gonna go ahead and since there's nobody watching anyway, we're gonna head ahead and stop the stream for now. But we're gonna come back to this probably, hopefully this weekend. We'll see. I think the weather is gonna prove to be pretty nasty, so we're gonna go ahead and keep working on this throughout the weekend, and hopefully get a little further on it. And I might even have a little more cleaned up by the next stream. So we'll see how that goes, and I will see you guys later. Take care. Keep on drawing out there, and hope you have a nice winter wherever you happen to be. I'm going to keep sipping my coffee and drawing today. Probably working on some traditional stuff. Got a little bit of a print piece that I'm working on. So this guy here, gonna wrap this probably today, at least on the line art, get it into scanned form and see how it looks with a little bit of color digitally, and get that out for a print for a con at the end of the month. All right, take care, everybody.